welcome back to Piano Practice Partner. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying these lessons. Today is a practice along session for the previous lesson, in which we were looking at the F major 2-5-1 sequence. We've been looking at 2-5-1s recently and applying them to some different songs. And in the last lesson, we broke down what the 2-5-1 on F major would be. So let's quickly recap what that is before we set some exercises and then set our trusty timer here. To begin with, we figured out the scale of F major, which is this. So one black note there, this A sharp or B flat, depending on which way we look at it. So there are 8 notes. So the 2 is right next door to the 1, so that's figured out 2/3 of the problem already. Then we just need to find the 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is our C. So for the F major 2-5-1, we'd play the 2, which is the G, the 5, which is the C, and then the 1, which is the F. We then built up the chords. So there it is in its primary position of each of those chords. Now remember, big thing to point out here is this 2 is lowercase, which denotes that it's minor. So this G here is actually G minor. So it's G minor, C major, F major. And then we spent some time adding some sevenths, didn't we? So we did and if you remember from that lesson as well, the 7th for the C is this black note here. And we figured out that's because we're now in the key of F major. And F major, as we've just found out, has this A sharp. So when we come to play the C, we've got the inclusion of this A sharp here, rather than what we would do if we're playing in C major. As we know, C major has no sharps or flats. If we were to play a 7th of the C major chord, we would play the B, like that. However, that's because C major, the scale of C major, or the key of C major rather, has no black notes, so it's all these white notes. But now that we're in the key of F, we have this black note, but we don't have this B here. Look what happens when we play up. We skip the B and go to the C. So when we're playing the C major chord within the key of F major, if we want to add that 7th, it's no longer here. It's going to be this black note because we're in the key of F major. Hopefully that will make sense. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so. It really helps me know that I'm not just playing piano into the void and that you're getting something out of it. So let's begin with, I'm going to set our timer. I'm going to start with a very simple 3 minutes. What I want us to do is I want us to cycle this 2-5-1, which is G minor, C major, F major, but then include the 7th notes. So for clarity, that is for our G minor chord, it's G, A sharp, D, F. Our C would be C, E, G, and then what we've just spoken about, this A sharp. And then our F chord would be the F, A, C, and E. So we're just going to cycle those 3 chords with the 7ths. 3 chords, 3 minutes. Away we go. Keep your hand and fingers nice and loose while we're practicing. Maybe play each chord 2 or 3 times. Just get used to the sound and feeling before moving on to the next one. Over halfway there, keep going. Final minute remaining. G minor, C major, F major. There we go, 3 minutes done. How was that, everyone? Something I've noticed within my own playing, which has made life a little bit easier, is this. When playing white notes and black notes, I've been typically playing sort of at the bottom of the white notes and then stretching up to hit the black notes. And that requires my fingers and my hand to do a lot of stretching. There's nothing stopping us from bringing our hands slightly higher up the keys. Now, this is very extreme, and I don't think I've ever seen anyone play the keys up here. But when we're playing a black note, we can use a bit more of the white keys to slide up to make the reach to the black notes easier. You might have been doing that already intuitively, but if, like me, you've been going, I'm playing the white notes, and now I've got to reach for a black note, a bit of a stretch, we can just shift our hand up to make that a more comfortable reach. So going from here with the 7th, that feels fine where it is because it feels quite naturally. But then coming up to my C with the 7, coming up in a bit more of the sort of middle of the white keys to allow that black note up here to be a bit easier to get. Makes life a lot easier. So if you're finding something similar or you're stretching, what happens if you just shift your hand up a little bit and see if that helps? Great. So that's our first exercise done. 2-5-1 in F major with the added 7ths. Now let's add the 7ths and the 9ths. And if you remember how we do this, we take the chord. So let's take our first chord here, which is the G minor with the 7th. All we do is, if we look at our bass note here, the G, we're also playing the G in the thumb. So we're just doubling that note. So we can afford to shift our right hand up to the next notes. So the thumb would replace the index finger would replace the middle finger would replace the pinky, and then we'd have our pinky free. So I'll demonstrate. We would then go, now we've got our pinky free to go a 9th. So there we are, there's our 9th for G minor. So again, for clarity's sake, that's G in the bass, and then A sharp, D, F, and A on the right hand. For our C, we'll do exactly the same thing where we've replaced the fingers so everything shifts up. And for clarity, that is C in the bass, and then we're playing E, G, A sharp, and D. And let's do the same for our final chord, our 1 chord, the F major. So F in the bass, we're going to shift our hand up. So that is F in the bass, A in the thumb, C, E, and G. So I'll play those all together. Let's do a nice little 4-minute time with that, because I think that's going to take us a little bit time, or a little bit more time, to figure out those transition points. But that is our next exercise. We're going to be playing the 2-5-1, cycling those chords, but with the 7ths and the 9ths. Have fun, everyone. Take it as slow as you need to figure out those transitions. If it helps to think of it this way, the F major chord, the 1 is all white notes, but the other 2 chords have that A sharp in them. Maybe play each chord a few times before moving on to the next one. Really bed in the feel of it and the sound of it. Halfway there, everybody. Keep going. Keep nice and relaxed and nice and loose. Final 20 seconds. Keep going. There we go. 4 minutes. How was that, everybody? I really enjoyed that. Occasionally, when it came to the C, I forgot about that note, and you really know it, don't you? That sounds so different to that, especially when you put it in the context of the sequence. If I play and then don't play that black note on the C here, it doesn't sound right, does it? So there's no avoiding it when you get it wrong. It's that little black note makes all the difference. Perfect. Let's move on to the next exercise. So the next part of this would be employing our inversions, because there's a lot of jumping around there. It's nice with the 7ths and 9ths, we're having to move our hand quite a lot up and down to get that. So with our inversions, in the last lesson, we figured out that the same rule applied that we've found with previous inversions, that it's a case of moving our top 2 fingers down followed by our bottom 2 fingers. So I'll demonstrate what I mean. Let's go back to our root position with the 7th to begin with, just to make it nice and easy. So here's the G minor with the 7th. To get to our C major, rather than jumping up here, all we need to do is take the top 2 notes that we're playing and move them down a tone. I mean, I don't really know how to explain this succinctly. I keep saying top 2 fingers down because I said a tone there, but if we look what's happening, my right finger's moving down a tone, so I'm skipping the black note, coming to the C, but I'm only coming down half a tone, so a half step down with my pinky. So rather than saying whole tone, middle finger, half tone, pinky, I'm going to say for ease, as I have in the previous lessons, top 2 fingers move down. So we're going from, for clarity's sake, this G with the 7th here. We're just going to move our middle finger down to C and our pinky finger down to E. So that goes like this. Do it one more time. So we're now at our C, our 5 chord. And if we want to get to the 1, we leave our top 2 fingers where they are. But now we're going to move our bottom 2 fingers down, half step and a whole step. So that goes like this. So I'll do the entire sequence from the G minor there with the 7th. That's our 2, minor 2. Move the top 2 fingers down. There's our 5, our C. And then bottom 2 fingers down. There's our 1. Nice and simple. Top 2 fingers move down. Bottom 2 fingers move down. Then we just rinse and repeat. So let's set a timer for 3 minutes. Go back down to 3. Up and down, up and down. 3 minutes, we're just going to cycle that and really get it under our fingers. Here we are, 3 minutes on the clock. See you afterwards. Top 2 fingers move down. Bottom 2 fingers move down. Keep nice and loose. Once you get used to that, you can play with adding some rhythm to those chords. So maybe play them a few times. Halfway there, keep going everyone. 25 seconds left. Keep going. There we go. 3 minutes done. How's that? Really satisfying, huh? Rather than jumping around, everything just seems to fall under where our hand already is. So it makes life easier. And again, I'll keep harping on about it, but it's really useful for variety because now we can play it like this, or we can play it like this, or a combination. We can chop and change and give different textures and feels depending on where we place that chord and the order we play the notes in. So really, really useful to drill these because now we have more variety at our disposal, which makes our life easier and richer. So what's next? We've done the sevenths, we've done the sevenths and ninths in their original positions. We've just looked at the sevenths within the inversions, so it makes sense that we do the sevenths and ninths within the inversions. So let's go back to our G minor with the sevenths and the ninths, which was up here. If ever we get confused about, oh, how did I do that? Come back to the root position, and we know that we're just going to shift our hand or our fingers up. So the thumb replaces the index replaces the middle finger, etc., etc. So it becomes, and then the ninth. So there we go. There's our G minor with the seventh and the ninth. Now, if we take that same concept of top two fingers down, bottom two fingers down, let's see what happens. What do you know? It works, as it did for our 251 in the other keys. So for clarity's sake, I'll just say each note out loud. So we've got our G in our bass. We're playing the A sharp, the D, the F, and the A. This is our G minor chord with the seventh and ninth. We're then going to take our top two fingers down. So that is now C in the bass, A sharp, D, E, and G. There's our C major chord with the seventh and ninth. Now we're going to take our bottom two fingers down. So that's F in the bass, and then A, C, E, G. So all together, it looks like this. Top two fingers move down. Bottom two fingers move down. One more time. Top two fingers move down. Bottom two fingers move down. It's exactly the same thing, just in a different sequence, right? This is what we were playing just a second ago. Top two fingers, bottom two fingers. Now we take it to the sevenths and the ninths. Top two fingers move down. Bottom two fingers move down. What do you know? Magic. So let's spend some time, even though it's the same thing, relatively, we're adding a few extra notes. So I'm going to up it again to 4 minutes to give us a bit more time and breathing space. Here we go, 4 minutes practicing the inversions with the sevenths and the ninths. See you in 4 minutes. Take your time figuring out those transitions. Remember, top two fingers move down, then the bottom two fingers move down, then repeat. Halfway there. Keep going. If you lose where the 7th and the 9th are, just come back to the original chord and then build it back up. Keep nice and loose. 30 seconds left. There we go. 4 minutes done. How was that? A little bit harder because there's more notes for us to get our fingers around, but quite nice cycling it and really getting used to that sequence. It starts becoming familiar in the same way that this feels very familiar. It's quite nice as well. That feels quite light. What happens if you put down the octave? Something sounds a bit deeper and richer, right? Beautiful. So now we've got 3 different versions. Wonderful. So now what we can do is chop and change between the 7ths with these inversions and the 7ths and 9ths with these inversions, just to give ourselves some variety and getting used to switching back and forth. So let's spend some time doing that. We're going to do the 2, 5, 1 with the 7ths and these inversions, and then go up to the 2, 5, 1 with the 7ths and the 9ths in these inversions. So let's spend 3 minutes. We'll go back down to 3 minutes. This is a real yo-yo session, this one, isn't it? 3, 4, 3, 4. So for clarity's sake, 2, 5, 1 with the 7ths and these inversions, and then seeing if you can go straight up to the 2, 5, 1 with the 7ths and the 9ths with these inversions, and then back down to the 7ths. We're just going to loop that for 3 minutes, getting used to switching back and forth. See you on the other side of 3 minutes. Take it as slow as you need to figure out the transitions, especially jumping between the 7ths to then the 7ths and 9ths. Keep it nice and loose. Over halfway there, keep going. There we are, 3 minutes done. How was that? Hopefully okay, even if that was a bit tricky. We understand the concept. It's just about going over and drilling it. What I was doing, if ever you looked up at the screen and thought, what the hell is he down there for? Was I was playing with what we were just doing, the cycling of. But I was seeing what would happen if I moved it down. So let's start, for example, all the way up here. And then the sevenths. And then let's come down. Sevenths and ninths. And then sevenths. And then go down the octave. Can we go even lower? Oh. Bit murky down there, a bit too much. But you can see, just by taking what we're doing, putting it in different octaves, moving around some of the inversions, there's nothing outrageous there. We understand what's happening, but it sounds so much more complicated than actually it is. So that's really, really cool. Excellent. So that's the bulk of the practice along. There's one more thing I'd like to introduce, and then in your own time, your own practice, whether you play this video again for the timer or do some solo-led practice, I'd like you to start playing with a few different things. So in previous lessons, we've looked at playing the individual notes of the chord whilst we're playing. So there, I'm just improvising, picking out the notes that I'm already playing. So real simple. We're just going to do exactly what we've been doing, play the 2-5-1 in F major in any inversion that we like, but rather than just block playing the chord, each note at the same time, we can play the chord, but then what happens if you cycle some of the notes individually before moving to the next chord? So suddenly, melody starts to emerge. Really fun, huh? So have a practice of that. Also, the thing that I want to introduce is adding some bass motion. So far we've just been playing the root notes. Really nice if we put that maybe further down the keyboard. Something happens to my brain when I move my hands too far away from each other, even though technically I know I can do it because I'm doing it here. As soon as I go here, my brain starts to panic a little bit. So test yourself, see if you can separate your hands a bit further and put your bass a bit further down the octave. See what that feels like. Once that feels nice and comfy, I've been playing around with some motion within the bass. I'm just going to move this. So I've been playing with this. All I'm doing there is I'm playing the root note, the 1, the 5, the 5th note of that scale, and then the octave, so 8, whatever 8 is, 5, 6, 7, 8. There you go for Roman numerals. But it's just the 1 essentially. So G for the G minor. The 5th note of that scale is the D. And then back to the octave. So it's just the G again. G, D, G. Coming up to C, that would be C, G, C, C, G, C. And then the F is F, C, F. So together that sounds like G, D, G, C, G, C, F, C, F, F, C, F. And what that sounds like, if we just put some of the simple chords, I'll just do the 7ths and the inversions. I'll just play the chords. It's gonna sound like this. I might repeat that last chord just for a form. What's really nice about this is we're getting some lovely bass motion, but with our right hand playing these inversions, I don't really need to think about my right hand too much because I'm not jumping around loads and having to split my focus. I can pay attention to this new feeling and locating where the notes are with full confidence that my right hand is staying pretty similarly placed. Top 2 fingers move down, bottom 2 fingers move down. And then I might have to have a quick look to get back to this original chord. Top 2 fingers, bottom 2 fingers. So that gives me so much time now to look at my left hand to see where I'm moving to, knowing that I'm only moving 2 fingers down, and then looking at my left hand again, and knowing that I'm only moving the bottom 2 fingers down. So why don't we do a quick 4 minutes practicing that. Here we go, everybody. Back up to 4. Away we go. Take this as slow as you need to whilst you figure out this new information. It's suddenly become a little bit more complicated, so notice if you've introduced some tension into your fingers. Try and soften that. Halfway there. Keep going, everyone. Final minute remaining. Keep going. There we go. 4 minutes done. How was that? It's quite exciting adding that bass motion. So what we can do next is, obviously we were just doing the sevenths there, but the same rules apply if we add what we were doing earlier in this practice long session and add the sevenths and ninths. What happens there? You'll notice I'm playing the chord twice with my right hand. There's some variety rather than just the one time through. We can play it twice. We can switch down to other versions of the chord as well. We don't have to stick to those inversions. So what happens then if we do once with the sevenths, and then next time around we go to the sevenths and ninths. Oh, brain, what have I done there? There we go. Mistakes like that I think are really useful because it's not about being perfect. What's really important, I think, within the practice is hearing that and going, something's not right. How do we figure out how to correct it? Because then we're learning, we're cementing the process of it, right? So, that doesn't sound right. There, or there, So don't be afraid of if it sounds figure out why it sounds and that will only improve your practice and your understanding of this instrument. You'll also notice there sometimes I was coming back to the fifth note there, so instead of going, I was occasionally going. So you can challenge yourself to add a few more notes in. Again, there's nothing new, we're just repeating bits. So now it's up to you with any of these lessons and any of these practice long sessions. Take what you're learning here and then have a little play, have a little experiment, see what feels good, see what sounds nice, see what you like. So taking this and then what happens if I do that and add some dynamics as well? Breaking up the rhythm, add some melody within the chords. Sevenths and ninths here. So all of that is within your capability because we've already done the practice. It's just stitching some bits together and having a little play. But thank you so much for joining me on this practice along session. I look forward to seeing you again next week where we're doing a lesson. We're learning a brand new song. We're going to be learning Sunny, which is an amazing song, and we're going to be expanding upon these 251s a little bit further and implementing all we've learnt so far. Leave a comment below, let me know what your wins of the week are, anything you want to learn in the future. If anything wasn't clear, let me know and I'll try and re-articulate it in a future lesson. But thank you for learning this instrument with me. I hope you're well and I look forward to seeing you next time on Piano Practice Pod.